Oh man, I mean, I don't really understand how Michael McDonald became the vocalist of the late 70s, considering you cannot understand what he says. You just cannot.
What I love about Michael McDonald are all the times that he does like secret background vocals, like Christopher Cross's Ride Like the Wind. Like, what?
Like the wind. That's the one, right?
Yeah.
Don't forget Peg. He's got that featured harmony on Peg. Peg,
and don't forget the one you were singing earlier, This Is It.
This is it. Make no mistake who you are. The waiting is over.
God, I love it.
And then he's got that.
He sounds like Swedish Chef.
He does. Yes.
Yeah. As we freedom, shine the light on me. You keep the spirit alive.
Somewhere in the middle of Arizona, you painted a desert and
Welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living.
My name is Megan Kearns. I'm a freelance writer, a contributor to Edge Media, and I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
My name is Dave Riedel. I'm an occasional writer for Salt Lake City Weekly, a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, etc., etc.
Yeah, you guys are.
I love it.
There it is.
Always look for that.
There it is.
One of these days, I'm going to be like, blah, blah. Yeah, I am. So.
You'll be your own hype man.
Like DMX.
Just like DMX.
Be a long running joke on the show.
Yeah.
So, on this week's show, we got a few movies we're going to be talking about. I'm going to start off in a moment. We're talking about EUROVISION Song Contest, the Story of Fire Saga. We are going to be talking about Mucho Mucho Amor. We are going to be talking about The Truth, or en français, La Vérité. And we are going to be talking about Homewrecker.
I'm sorry, I don't know why that made me laugh. La Vérité.
Well, it is mostly a French film,
is.
so I figured we should refer to it by its French title.
Right.
So, I guess I'll start off with EUROVISION, needlessly long titled movie, and also needlessly long movie.
Is it 2 hours?
It's 2 hours.
Oh my God. Nope.
It is 2
Chop that
hours,
up.
This is
which is way longer than a comedy should
Yes.
be.
Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams, is that it?
Yes.
Yes.
See, I don't understand this. I mean, I'm all for Rachel McAdams.
I know. I love her.
Okay? But I think I've reached my limit on Will Ferrell in a leading role. Unless he's doing a silly role.
Same.
If he's doing what's the one with Maggie Gyllenhaal?
Stranger Than Fiction. Oh, it's just so
If
good.
he's doing,
It's
that's a
so
good one.
good.
Yeah, if he's doing that kind of thing, I'm all in.
I agree.
But this, I'm guessing, Evan, and you correct me. Of course, I'll let you talk. He's just like blah blah Will Ferrell songs in this one.
Kinda.
Yeah.
I mean, so this movie, Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams play Lars and Sigrid. They're Icelandic.
Oh my God.
And their dream, mostly Will Ferrell's dream, has been to enter EUROVISION, to get his song accepted, and to win the EUROVISION singing competition. And so, yeah, it's about their quest to win the Eurovision competition. And of course, because it's a ridiculous comedy, the whole reason they end up in it in the first place is sheer chance. They are picked out of a bin by a guy who blindly picks, because they need another act to host this singing competition in Iceland to qualify for Eurovision. So a guy just closes his eyes and pulls a cassette tape out of a box. That's how they ended up in it initially. And then later, after they are in this televised competition where they completely fuck up their set because, of course, Will Ferrell just, technical difficulties. He falls out of a harness on stage in the middle of the thing.
That's actually kind of funny.
It's a mess. So there's an after party, and the after party, all the musicians are on a boat that explodes, and they're the only ones left. So that's how they end up. I'm making this sound much funnier than it is. It's really not very funny at all. It's not particularly good, but it's written by Will Ferrell and Andrew Steele and is directed by David Dobkin, and it's mostly not very funny at all, but the music sequences are actually really entertaining.
Ooh, now I'm in.
And there is some decent performances, like Pierce Brosnan plays Will Ferrell's overbearing father, who has just never believed in his dreams, and he's actually good. I like Pierce Brosnan in this role.
I kind of believe that too.
Me too.
I kind of believe that casting because of their squinty eyes, both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but all the we're Icelandic jokes really just kind of fall flat with Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams. It's way more fun when it's a movie about singing. There's this epic sing-along. There's a character who's played by Dan Stevens. Dan Stevens plays a Russian performer named Alexander Lemtov. And he has this crazy number called Lion of Love or something, where he's got shirtless men and whips and this crazy safari background. That part's actually entertaining.
Because it's Dan Stevens and he's amazing.
Yeah. I was just going to say, Dan Stevens, Walk Among the Tombstones, Dan Stevens?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The very same.
Just checking.
Yes.
Because that's a very serious part, which I think is one of the few things I've seen him in.
Yeah. So yeah, he's good, and the music is good. He hosts this epic sing along with all these different Eurovision performers, and they're singing Cher and ABBA and all these things in this epic sing along, and that's really fun to watch. And the performance is really fun. And what's sad is that they're always ripping on Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams, saying they're so terrible. But they're really not terrible. Their music is actually good. And aside from the fact that I have terrible luck with malfunctioning things on stage, when they actually perform in Eurovision, Will Ferrell was running around in this giant hamster wheel that falls, and Rachel McAdams' scarf gets caught in it. And so they go flying off the stage, but they get up and they finish the song. And so people give them props, and that's why they move forward in the competition. But yeah, the music parts are actually enjoyable. And if the movie was more about that and less about them trying to make dumb jokes, I think I would have liked it a lot more, especially if it wasn't 2 fucking hours long.
Yeah.
There was one time where I really laughed hard, and it's a subplot involving people in Iceland believing in elves. And so Rachel McAdams' character is she's leaving offerings at the little houses that the elves live in, and Will Ferrell's not about it. But later in the movie, he's like, okay, I'm gonna try it because she believes in it, and I'm gonna do this for her. And he goes, and this guy who's I don't know if he's head of something in Iceland. He's some government position. He doesn't want Iceland to win because Iceland can't afford to host Eurovision. It would screw the country over. So he tries to murder Will Ferrell.
Oh my God.
And yeah, it's insane. But what's the one time I did laugh really freaking hard is this happens right outside the little houses where the elves are. And all of a sudden, while this guy's trying to choke out Will Ferrell, he gets stabbed in the back with a knife. And you just hear a door slam on the little house, which means the elf murdered him.
Oh my God.
And that was actually really funny.
That is really funny.
Yeah. So that's the only time I laughed in that entire movie.
Wow.
Yeah. It's wow. Whew.
Yeah. It's a strange movie, but I wish it was better because the music parts are legitimately fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I do kind of chuckle when I see the gif of Will Ferrell doing Volcano Man. I'm I don't even know what that is, but that's kind of humorous. So yeah, and I've
it's a funny song.
And I've seen some still frames from the film, and I'm ooh, this looks weird and intriguing, but but it seems the the images and and the music might be more compelling than the rest of the film, but that's a shame.
Absolutely. Anyway, I feel like I've given this movie too much time already. So
Just like its long run
Megan.
time.
Yes, I've run longer than I said I would run for the segment. So let's move on to Mucho Mucho Amor.
Yes. Mucho Mucho Amor is a documentary on Walter Mercado, who I don't know if you guys know or maybe not remember. I remember him from my childhood. Not that I really watched him, but he was this magnetic and effervescent astrologer and he was the first person to have, or his show was the first show dedicated exclusively to astrology. And he dominated media in like all over South America and Central America and in many Latinx communities in the US. And then he ended up being global and like in Europe. And yeah, he was huge. And how I saw him on like Sally Jesse Raphael, and I saw him on Regis and Kathy Lee. Like I saw him do like astrology readings like on talk shows. And so I only kind of sort of knew how big he was, but yeah, he is huge. And this documentary is very much a love letter and testament to him as a person and kind of his message of love and peace. And the film opens with people talking about him, like Lin-Manuel Miranda and other actors and activists talking about him and his life and how he just kind of disappeared. And then the documentary becomes about him. I mean, it's all about him, but it shows Walter Mercado, and it does interviews, and we're inside his home. And it's actually really sad why he stepped away from the limelight. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know if his producer or I wish I should remember, but I do not. But anyway, someone who worked with him had him sign a contract, and he didn't read the contract. He just trusted this person, and he ended up signing over everything. Like not only all of his past material, but any future material he did. His name, like he no longer could use his own name on TV. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
That's messed
yeah,
up.
and the guy who did this is in the documentary. Like he's being interviewed, and before you find this out, because you find this out like much later in the documentary, when he's being interviewed, he's talking, so highly about Walter Mercado and talking about, how he's been, part of his life for so long. And then you find out that this is the asshole who like screwed him over. And he says, he's like, I don't have any regrets or not in my vocabulary. And I was like, what the fuck? Like you screwed over your friend. Like this is ridiculous. So he took him, so they had like a long court battle like for years, and finally Walter Mercado was able to get his name back. So that's good. But yeah, but before the documentary even gets to that point, he talks about his growing up in Puerto Rico and growing up very, very poor, and he always knew he was different, and he says to be different is a gift. And he talks about how there was like this little bird who was like injured, and he picked up the bird, and he's like blowing on the bird, and he's very ostentatious and very theatrical. Like he has a background in acting and dancing, and it's very clear he does, because he is very over the top and dramatic with his hand motions and gestures. It's great. I love it. And he's like, I'm blowing on the bird, and I'm saying, bird, you will live. And the bird like flies away, and he's saying that after that, he would sit in a chair, and people in town would come to him to want to touch him because he clearly had a gift. And like everything about him is just so fascinating and just over the top. And he wears capes and jewelry, and he wears lots of makeup, and he has a very particular hairstyle that someone in the film comments is kind of like a 70s men's hairstyle, but also a grandma hairstyle. And
I see that looking up photos.
And it's just fascinating. And he was, clearly such a showman. Like he put on such a performance, and everything he talked about, like people talk about this in the documentary, they talk about like he never said one negative word. Like he always just emitted positivity. And he did these astrological readings, and people would like they talk in the documentary about how like they would sit around with their their, you know, their grandmothers, and people would like shush them, like shush, shush. It's, you know, like Walter Mercado is on and we have to listen to, you know, and wait for our astrological reading. And it's just so fascinating to think that people, like, you know, so many people, like millions of people were just riveted to their TV screens to hear their reading. It's just, it's incredible. And he really spoke so inspirationally and motivationally, like, and he is just so captivating. Like, I can see why people would want to watch this because it's such a show that he's putting on. And it also talks about like his gender presentation and how it very much is androgynous and, you know, mixing masculinity and femininity. And there's an LGBTQ activist in the film who talks about, he says, growing up as a queer boy, it really gave me a lot of hope to see someone like him embraced by communities, you know, by very religious communities. Like, that's kind of, you know, it's amazing. And they also talk about how because of that, because of his, you know, androgyny, he also was parodied a lot. And there were a lot of jokes made about him. And someone else talks about how he was, you know, kind of got folded into gay jokes and he was embraced and othered at the same time, they said. And, you know, and of course, when someone is different, you know, that is going to happen, unfortunately. But yeah, but he never spoke about his sexuality or his sexual orientation. Like, a lot of people speculated, you know, that he was queer, and he never confirmed or denied anything. And like, there are these great interviews with him where they're asking about, you know, like the interviewer in the documentary is asking, like, you know, you've never talked about this. Is there a reason why? And he's like, I have sex with everything. I have sex with the wind and with nature. And it's like, there's something so amazing about that. And just, it's just beguiling and fascinating. And I could not help but just smile watching him. And I can see why so many people loved watching him and hearing him, because it's just, there's just so much joy that emanates from him. And, you know, people talked about how he gave immigrants a sense of hope, and he just gave people in general a sense of hope. And so the documentary moves through his life and the fact that he was such a media sensation and his appearance and all of this. And then it talks about the court case, which is so sad. And then at the end of the documentary, it talks about this exhibit that happened in Miami. And it was an exhibit all in honor of him, like his capes, his jewelry, magazine covers, just so many pieces of memorabilia and of his wardrobe to celebrate him. And his health was failing. He wasn't doing very well. But he was like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be at the opening. I would not miss this for the world. And his family members talked about how he absolutely loves the spotlight, and he loves people, and he loves his audience. And when he flew into Miami, into the airport, like, people, like, you see the cameras behind him and you just see people like coming up to him, and he's touching them and taking pictures with them. And people just love him. And like, they also, earlier in the film, they talk about he was on Howard Stern and he did an interview, and that's kind of part of what, you know, catapulted him to even more awareness to other audiences outside of Latinx communities. And Howard Stern says, you're bigger than Jesus. And he's like, no. And, you know, but he was just so huge, and it's just kind of unbelievable, like, just what a presence he was. And I keep saying was because he unfortunately passed away at the end of last year. But he was there at the Miami opening of his exhibit, and people were just waiting for him, and just so excited to see him and to touch him and to take photos with him. And he was so exuberant about it and elated. And he talks about how this is the greatest moment of my life. And it's just, he says a few times throughout that he is a force of nature. And it really is a great way to encapsulate him. And I found myself crying through this documentary too, because he talked about how, you know, he just wanted to put love out there. And sure, he was making lots of money off of it. Of course, there's that too. But there's something very touching and comforting about someone who just wants everyone to get along. And, you know, in such dark times, it's really nice that just kind of this message of unity. And he talks about diversity and how important diversity is and how everyone needs to come together. And it's a very lovely, lovely message. And it's easy to see why he was such a compelling presence. And this is just a really great documentary that focuses on that. And there's also throughout the documentary, there's kind of tarot card artwork kind of sprinkled throughout. And I love that too. And yeah, this was really great. It was a joy to watch.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah. It was really interesting.
Oh, looking forward to checking it out. I know it comes out on Netflix soon. So looking forward to seeing it.
It does. Yeah. And it's also interesting, like how people talked about how they grew up with him and, you know, loved him. But a lot of people were, and maybe not a lot, but quite a few people were asked, like, do you believe in astrology? And like one person in particular was like, I believe in him. Like, so it's so interesting to think about, like, even people who didn't believe in this, they just enjoyed, you know, his show, which is so nice.
Yeah.
That is nice.
Rock.
Rock on.
Yeah.
So, should we now move on to The Truth?
Yes.
Or La Verite?
Yeah, I prefer that.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I feel like I'm going to do a terrible job of describing this movie. Megan, do you want to take a crack at giving the kind of quick synopsis?
Sure. So this is Hirokazu Koreeda's film, his first film that is in a Western language film. And, you know, I really hate saying Western language film because anyway, I hate that kind of orientation of geography. But anyway, it is. And it stars Catherine Deneuve and Juliette Binoche. And it's an incredibly complicated, tempestuous mother-daughter relationship. And they are reunited after being apart for a while. And Catherine Deneuve plays a very famous actress in this film. And there's a film within a film. And it's all about that, their struggling relationship.
Yeah. It's Catherine Deneuve is shooting a sci-fi film about a mother-daughter relationship that they show her shooting, and she's
by the way, I want to see this. I want to see this Memories of My Mother sci-fi film.
Yeah, it seems like it's a cool premise for the movie. Within the movie is that, you know, there's a girl and her mother has a terminal disease, and so she lives in space but comes back every 7 or so years. And so because she's in space and she's not aging, you know, the mother stays the same age, but the daughter grows up and then eventually is, you know, Catherine Deneuve and is like in her 70s, and the weird dynamic of, you know, being in your 70s but having your mother who's been the same age the entire time.
Whoa, wait, hold on. This is that movie with Blake Lively and Harrison Ford.
Age of Adeline.
Yeah, that's the one.
You're like, I've seen that movie before, except this time it's your mother.
Yeah, and bring the drama, please, because oh my God, is there so much drama
and I love it. But you know what I love about this film, and I saw this film maybe not a long time ago, but I saw it last year at IFF Boston, and I actually enjoyed it more on the rewatch. And what I love. There's quite a few things, but I love that there's a lot of drama, but none of it, and I do love melodramatic over the top drama, but none of it ever feels that way. It just feels very real and authentic. And yeah, and I just really love that. And I love watching the two of them play off of each other. I mean, they're both so impressive and they have this electric rapport, and it's just such a treat seeing two masterfully talented actors, you know, playing off of each other and interacting. It's great to see.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the funny things is that Ethan Hawke plays Juliette Binoche's husband in this movie, and he feels like for the majority of the movie, he's barely there.
Yeah, but he's great.
Just like to give you an idea.
But he's great in that role of kind of barely being there, both literally and kind of figuratively. But yeah, but I always love Ethan Hawke, and he's great. What I love about Catherine Deneuve's character, Fabienne, is that she's incredibly opinionated and blunt. She's also really funny too, but like she's the kind of character that I love watching, but I wouldn't want to be related to. And you really get a sense of why Juliette Binoche has such a problem with her, especially because she's writing her memoirs, or her memoirs are already written, and she's reading a proof copy of it. And she's like, whoa, 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 this did not happen. You never picked me up from school like it says in this book. And so, that's obviously where the truth title comes in, like who's telling the truth and whose truth. And, so there's all of that as well, which is, really fascinating to unpack.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And this idea that they mention this line multiple times that like you can't trust your own memory because, there is this element of dispute of what really happened, particularly with regard to a relationship that Catherine Deneuve's character had with another actress who Juliette Binoche's character was, loved her like another mother growing up. And the fact that Fabienne, Catherine Deneuve's character, ended up sleeping with the director and getting this part, and it ruined her friend Sarah. And Sarah, did she commit suicide, or did she drowned? Was that what it was? She drank and went swimming and drowned.
Yeah. But I can see, I can see it didn't get the sense of suicide, but you never really know exactly what happened, so it could have been, but she did drown, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so there's this kind of old wound that's never quite healed for Lumiere, for Juliette Binoche's character. It's always kind of been there, and she's always felt this anger towards her mother about it. And I think in the movie, toward the end, she doesn't quite forgive her, but she finds a way to kind of deal with it, I guess.
Yeah, but that
because they talk about
it. And she says, I'm on the verge of forgiving you. But then I feel like that scene is really quietly devastating because, she, Catherine Deneuve says, like, I was jealous of Sarah. She stole my daughter. She didn't steal an acting role, and it's like this really tender moment. And then Catherine Deneuve pulls away and she's like, what a waste of these emotions. I should have played my final scene in the film like this. And I love that Juliette Binoche moves away from her, like kind of horrified, and she's like blurred in the background, kind of like visually signifying that they're disconnected again. And she's just disgusted with her mother. Like they're having this moment, this really important revelation, and all her mother can think about is her career and herself. And it's just, I thought that was great. I loved it.
Yeah. I think for me, I struggled with this. I know, Dave, you've voiced this, that it's hard sometimes to see people that you can't stand, like characters that you can't stand. I think for me, that's a struggle in this film, is that Catherine Deneuve's character is so self-involved. Like she's had this butler forever and ever and ever, and she doesn't write a word about him in her memoir. So he's like, screw it, I'm out of here. And she gets Juliette Binoche to write him an apology for her to give to him, to get him to come back. And just the whole idea that she's asking her to do it, but also that Juliette Binoche agrees to do it, I found incredibly frustrating.
And then at the end of the film, Juliette Binoche also writes what her daughter should say, for her own daughter should say to her grandmother, Catherine Deneuve. And like, that's so like interesting and complicated too. So there's a lot of complicated feelings going on here.
Yeah. So I struggled with that watching the movie.
Oh, you did? Yeah. See, I was totally into it. I really liked that. Like I said, I can definitely watch people on screen that I find absolutely riveting and fascinating, but wouldn't necessarily want to know them in real life.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I think another thing for me too was what you were describing, Megan, earlier, where you felt like there was drama, but it wasn't huge drama. I think I struggled with keeping interest in the movie because of that. Yeah. I think for me, if the drama was more pronounced, I might have been more into what was going on. But because it kind of, for me, felt like it was just kind of going along at a consistent pace the whole way through, I struggled to pay attention and to keep myself hooked into this movie, despite the fact that I found the actual dynamics of their relationship interesting and just totally freaking complicated.
Yeah, and I completely get that. And like I said, that's kind of how I felt the first time watching it, which is really why I wanted to rewatch it. And I'm really glad I did, because like I said, I picked up on more things. I enjoyed it much more the second time. Because I think the first time I kept waiting for like this huge blowout that never really happens, and it feels very anticlimactic. So I totally get it. I will say my favorite scene is probably the most dramatic. I love that dinner scene. The dinner scene where they are each throwing barbs at the other, and like Catherine Deneuve is insulting Ethan Hawke's acting, and she's calling him not a good actor. He's just imitating. Like, that was great. And that's when we find out, that she slept with the director to screw over her friend Sarah out of her part. And so that scene is absolutely my favorite. And I do, as much as I enjoyed and appreciate that it's kind of a restrained and quiet dramatic, I do kind of wish there were some more punctuated emotional moments, because you're right. Like, I see very much what you're saying. Like, it's kind of got this, kind of monotonous level or tone to it. And it is very intriguing to watch, but at the same time, it might have been even that much more compelling, if it was more dramatic. But at the same time, I feel conflicted, because I say that, but then at the same time, I kind of love that it subverts expectations and that it isn't wildly, melodramatic. Like, I do kind of like that it's restrained. So, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like calling it one note is unfair, but that's kind of what my brain gravitates toward in terms of the level of the film, and it just operates at a very consistent level for me, which was just not quite enough to get me like really invested in the drama. I kind of like, the movie ended and I was glad that it ended.
Yeah, that's
I was like, I think I've spent just as much time with these people as I care to, and my patience has been drained over the course of the movie.
Yeah. I almost feel like the ending would have been better. I feel like it's kind of a non-ending ending, like it kind of just stops. And I almost feel like when Juliette Binoche is horrified at her mother, if it had ended there, it almost would have been a much more impactful ending and more like kind of a gut punch. But yeah, and I know what you mean when you say one note, because that sounds like such an insult. And there really are so many layers and, so much depth to the film, like what they're exploring about mother-daughters, and aging and, memories and truth and, all of these really existential and heady issues, which so there is clearly a lot of depth going on, but saying one note is actually accurate because it's just all the same note, yeah, so...
Right.
So it's not an insult necessarily, but you are right. It is kind of just, the same. There's not a lot of ups and downs, ebbs and flows.
Yeah. I mean, it felt mean saying it, but it's like, it's just kind of how I feel like accurately describes my experience with the movie.
I agree. Like, I clearly liked it, more, but no, that is accurate. Yeah. I just think there's a lot to mine and, lot of layers here to peel back and look at, which is what I enjoyed so much. And the acting is great. But yeah, tonally, I wish it had mixed it up a little bit more too.
Same. So were there other things that you wanted to talk about the film? I know we talked a lot about it, there being kind of like a lot of layers to the drama. Is there anything that you feel like we haven't punched into?
No, I mean, I guess the only other thing, which I don't find, I mean, it's interesting, it is interesting, but I don't know how much I have to say about it, is I do find her commentaries on acting throughout, Catherine Deneuve's characters' commentaries on acting, kind of interesting. Like, the film opens, with her being interviewed about acting, and the interviewer says, who's imparted their DNA on you acting wise, and she's like, nobody, I'm myself, and and then later on in the film, she kind of casually says, like, oh, Sarah, her former friend, she's like, oh, Sarah, imparted her DNA on everyone, and like, so clearly. So there's some interesting things there. And she talks about, I'm an actress. I won't tell the naked truth. It's not interesting. And so that, there's some kind of, things about acting and like tips on acting that she gives, to Ethan Hawke. And, she talks to the other actresses, on the sci-fi film, how to like pull emotions out. And so I find some of that kind of interesting, just kind of in a, meta, we watch films, we analyze them and critique them. And so that's kind of interesting to watch. But I guess I really enjoyed the kind of meta levels. Like, I do kind of love a film within a film. And so I really did enjoy that. And yeah, so there's a lot here.
Yeah. I liked seeing the film within the film stuff. It was definitely interesting to see. Although then I started to get invested in that movie in some ways more than the movie I was watching.
I could see that.
Well, alrighty then. Should we move on to Homewrecker, which we all saw?
Yes,
Yeah.
we did.
Homewrecker.
And Dave, we finally get to hear from you. Yay!
Yeah.
I know.
Well, I mean, I don't have anything crazy to say except Joan, you know how now I don't know how much we've talked about this with you, Megan, but we used to talk about it a lot with Chris, and Evan can attest to this. I can figure out almost every movie's ending correctly.
Oh, yes, you
So-
have definitely said this on the show and since I've been on. Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know if I wasn't thinking about it or what, but I don't know, we're maybe 35, 40 minutes into the movie, and actually probably not that long because it's only an hour and 15 minutes long. Joan's like, oh my God, she's having an affair with the husband and she's kidnapped the wife because out of some jealous rage. And I was like, that seems totally plausible given what we're, being, because they had just gotten to her house when she says that.
Oh my God, Joan, you're amazing.
Yeah. And when what's her name? The young wife, whose name I can't remember,
Michelle?
says,
Is it Michelle?
Michelle,
Yeah.
thank you. What's with all the magazines? She's like, oh, I do collages. Joan's like, oh my God.
I love that was Joan's tip off, the magazine piles
Yeah.
on the stairs.
And I'm pretty sure that was it. But I mean, I remember reading the what is the one line like synopsis of it, the log line? Somebody got that handy because it's not right.
I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says two women befriend each other, but one becomes obsessed with the other.
That is not what
that
happens
is
at all.
not exactly accurate.
Not even close. It's like one woman is obsessed with the other because she's having an affair with the woman's husband. That's
So I want to talk about that. So so there are things I enjoyed about this film, and like I think Precious Chong's performance, she plays Linda, the woman who's the obsessed woman. I think she does
the kidnapper.
Yes, the kidnapper. I think she does a really great job. With the kind
and she wrote it. Don't
yes, she
forget
did.
that.
Actually, so did Alex Esso, who plays Michelle. They both co-wrote it along with the director Zach Gain. Yeah, which I think is really interesting. So so I really liked that, and I actually weirdly really liked the board game they play, the like Precious Hunks or whatever that is. Because that really
game.
reminds me of a game that I did not have because I was disgusted by it. But there was a board game very similar to that, where you had to go to a party and get dates. I remember that from my childhood. But anyway, one of the things I like very early on is you see Linda working out, and she's clearly watching Michelle because she's going to all of the workout classes that she's going to. And so then there's that really uncomfortable cafe scene where she where Michelle is like trying to do work and Linda's like sitting down, and it's like, oh, it's so awkward and uncomfortable. My skin's crawling.
Yeah.
So
awkward.
So awkward. So I'm like, oh my God, is this going to be a single white female situation? I'm totally down with this, because she keeps talking about how men suck and men lead you on, and there's no point in obsessing over men. And I'm like, yes. And I'm like, okay, she's clearly obsessed with this woman. It's going to be an obsession about a woman. I love it. I love this subversion. Maybe there's even going to be queer elements to it. I'm totally into this. And no, it ends up being obsession over a fucking dude. And I'm like, no, I was so, and I guess this is why I shouldn't have gotten ahead of myself and I predicted inaccurately where the film was going. But I was like, to me, it was a wasted opportunity. Like, I would have loved if it had been, a woman obsessing over a woman. I think that would have been really fascinating, because there are some really fascinating dynamics happening here, and about age and not being able to have children, or or feeling older and trying to recapture your youth when Linda's trying to do that because she was popular. Yeah, so I was kind of disappointed about that it ended up all being about a dude, but I also did not see it coming the way Joan did. So good for Joan.
Well, yeah, she really nailed it, and it was like she was so like convinced, and I was just, and I didn't really think about it, but I was like, it would make a lot of sense. And then,
it does, yeah.
And then it happens exactly like she said, and she's like, I can't believe I got it before you did. I'm like, hey, kudos to you, man. Can't wait to tell Evan and Megan. They'll never believe it.
Yeah, that is really funny. I'm glad to hear that this was a time. I think I knew where it was going, but to Megan's point, I think there were some elements that kind of surprised me in a good way about the dynamic between these two characters, particularly the board game scene that you're referring to. This is after Michelle has been kidnapped and she's tried to escape at least twice by this point, possibly 3 times. And they have this real conversation with each other while they're playing this board game, and it ends with them embracing. And I was thinking, well, maybe the dynamic of this relationship will shift. Maybe they'll realize that, they're both dealing with the same asshole and they'll team up against him or something.
Oh, that would have been great.
But then they didn't, and it was just them fighting. And I thought this was kind of a good idea, but I found this movie agitating, especially when it gets to the end where there's this kind of struggle, and I feel like Michelle's character allows herself to be caught. Like she's had so many opportunities to disable Linda, to really take her out, and she just acts so stupidly, and she ends up handcuffed in the bathroom and gets her tongue cut out for what I feel like is no reason. I was so mad watching this, going, this doesn't have to happen. You don't even need to be here right now. You could have ended this. You had a freaking sledgehammer in your hand. You could have ended this so long ago.
I also want to say it's weird to me that she doesn't scream at all when the tongue cutting out is happening. I'm like, especially those scissors were not very fucking sharp. That shit would have hurt.
No, that wouldn't have worked.
It wouldn't have worked, first of all.
I'm going to go ahead and just say, maybe she was in shock when she was getting her tongue cut out.
Maybe, that's fair.
I mean, she definitely looks like she's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
Some things I want to get into.
One, let's do it.
I think they used the space of the house really well.
I agree.
Obviously, this movie's really low budge, and I think, Evan, you're right about Michelle being able to escape several times. I mean, if you're on the second floor, just jump out the window. Yeah,
Yes. Tie a sheet to the bed that's in the room and open the window and climb out. She could have done that so easily.
Or just jump and deal with a broken leg. Like, just do it.
I also don't believe for a minute that this young woman couldn't overpower this woman who's clearly twice her age. Now I'm not saying, that's, I don't know. It just seemed
not believable.
Just like, fucking, to get to the second floor thing. It's like, maybe she's not going to follow you out the second floor. I mean, she's crazy, but she's not stupid. So I hesitate to use the word crazy, but,
unhinged, but she's unstable. Yeah.
And also, I think what may have made it harder for Michelle is they went to great pains to kind of describe her character as not being very assertive or sure of herself. So that worked as far as her not getting away. And also, she didn't know the layout of the house the way that Linda did or does. So I think that worked against her too. Now, that being said, she certainly could have grabbed that sledgehammer and just fucking taken it to Linda's forehead, and it would have been over, And I'm not saying, smack her really hard. I'm just saying knock her out.
Right.
Just knock her out. Like, there was a scene where Michelle's locked in the laundry room, and Linda's like, well, there's no weapons in there. There's spray bottles in there. Open the door and spray Linda in the eyes.
Right?
There's literally so many weapons around this entire house she could be using.
Right.
Although I laughed really hard when she accidentally picked up Linda's vibrator.
Nice. Yeah, about the getting away, I definitely agree. I mean, she should have gone out the window. But aside from that, I mean, she is trying to break the windows, but they're all reinforced glass, and they're all the house is clearly rigged, so it, someone cannot escape, or it's very hard to. But what I also feel is that for a horror movie, there are a lot of wasted opportunities, and there's different kinds of horror, of course, but there's a lot of wasted opportunities for some physicality, violence, anything as far as, spraying her in the eyes, do it. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's shockingly tame given the subject. And then
Right.
it just goes full tilt when they get to the tongue cutting scene. And then
Which is kind of
Linda's just like
amazing.
bloodied and she's like wiping blood off herself and changing clothes and putting on makeup frantically to go see Bobby, who's come with flowers to dump her, which
It's
is
so
like, what?
weird. That is weird.
It's so weird. It's just such a strange choice, but it's interesting when you find out that they had like a prior relationship,
Right.
I think, to this cheating.
Right.
Like they used to go out.
Yeah.
Then he dumped her. Then he got back with her.
Yeah.
And that's why Linda is so stuck on him.
Yeah. But you know where I thought that was going when I saw the flowers and everything? I was like, okay, wait a minute. She's not completely fabricating knowing him or having some kind of relationship with him. But what I thought, because Michelle mentions at some point that he doesn't drink, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. Is he in recovery and she's his sponsor, or she like somehow helped him get into recovery? Like I'm like imagining all of these things. And I was like, that would make so much sense why he's got a relationship with her, but it's not the relationship she thinks it is. But no, it is really that they've been, fucking. So anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think there are really good ideas here. I also, speaking about using the layout of the house, I also really kind of dug the like sort of Brian De Palma-esque split screens, like when they were on opposite sides of the door, or when they and then they were like struggling, and then they go into each other's split screens. Like I kind of really liked that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was cool, but I think slightly overused in my opinion.
Yes, I would have used a few less of them. Yes, I agree. That would have had a little more impactful effect.
Yeah, I think that what the movie overall didn't work for me, although I kind of felt the need to defend it just now. I don't know.
I feel that way too. I feel very like I need to defend this movie. There's really great ideas, but overall I'm kind of like,
yeah, I think because it went for the fucking, it's not that everything's played for laughs, but it's because the good thing about Precious Chong's performance is there's a level of malevolence in her character from the beginning.
Yep. And
you could think to yourself, oh, she's just kind of creepy and intense, but no, there's something there that's like, so it didn't really surprise me when it went to the violence, and I am glad we didn't get to see the tongue cutting. I think it's kind of a bummer that the husband, all he got was stabbed in the forearm 4 or 5 times. I think that something worse should have happened to him, and I think what would have made everything like be cool is if Linda had actually killed both of them and gotten away with it. I would have been like, okay, this movie went in a direction I wasn't expecting, and it's not exactly what I wanted, but you know what? That's ballsy. I'll give you the golf clap for that one. But
or if Michelle killed Linda with the hammer and then killed Bobby with the hammer.
That would have been great.
That's interesting too. Yeah. But I will say those are both great endings, but I did enjoy that she's like, no, I'm not fucking around any longer. And she just bashes her head in. I'm like, good for you.
Yeah, but now she doesn't have a tongue, and it's like been sitting on the porcelain too long for her to put it on ice and get it sewn back on. I don't know. They have artificial tongues these days. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. But no, Evan, I like your earlier idea about the two of them teaming up. Which
that would have been great.
Which, by the way, is very reminiscent of The Perfection, which is a great horror queer love story where the two women are pitted against each other and then team up to turn the tables against a douchey guy. It's great. Anyway,
I need to see that.
Yes, you do.
Oh, is that the cellists?
Yes, it is.
Cellists?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not talking about The Perfection, but that is a film that deals with turning the tables in a great way and women teaming up. So yeah, but there are definitely some great ideas here and some great things. I think I wish it had been a little tighter or maybe written a little differently. I wish it had gone maybe a different direction. I definitely wish the obsession had stayed on a woman, but there's some things that worked and some things that did not.
Yep. A mixed bag, as they say.
Indeed.
Yeah. Oh, but this was the thing I wanted to say. I knew there was something I was forgetting, about Precious Chong's performance as Linda. when you were talking about how there's a lot of malevolence, and there really is, and I think she plays that really, really well. There's also a tremendous amount of pathos too in her performance. Like, I felt really bad for her that she's so lonely and she has no one to talk to, and that she has nothing really going for her, according to her. Like, that's really sad and tragic. And I wasn't expecting to feel bad for her because, you kind of know pretty early on she's the villain. But I did. I felt really bad for her. So I really, really enjoyed that performance. Thought it was really good. Really well done.
Yeah, she was really good.
And she's Tommy Chong's kid. Wow.
Mm-hmm, she is.
Who knew? Well, I mean, I knew because her last name's Chong. But, So
cool. So, any other thoughts about Homewrecker?
Homewrecker is not a great title for it. I mean, it kind of works, but at the same time, it doesn't. It's like, I mean, when you think of a homewrecker, you think of like just some random person, affair, home wrecked. You don't think of psycho fucking sledgehammer stalker movie. So
yeah. Well, yeah. When I think of the title Homewrecker, I think that Michelle is technically the homewrecker in this situation, at least if you're Linda.
If you're and that all goes to a matter of perspective. Yeah, for Linda, Michelle is the homewrecker. And that is really interesting because she does keep asking her, like, what, or not keep asking, but she asks, like, what do you have that I don't? And yeah, it is. They really have a strange. I know we kind of talked about it, but they have this really strange dynamic where, Linda finds her to be, the thorn in her side. Like, if she just got rid of, Michelle, her life would be perfect in a storybook ending. But at the same time, she also does seem to want to really befriend her. Like, she makes her watch Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and they play that game, and she wants to talk about boys. So there really is kind of this strange dynamic going on where she hates her, she's jealous of her, but also kind of wants to be her friend in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm stuck on the tongue now for some reason.
Oh, that tongue.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was kind of glad they went there for that.
Yeah. Well, Joan said when, when Linda put it on the counter, she's like, that tongue looks fake. So.
Nice. Okay. So then let's do a quick recap.
Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
I would say don't see Eurovision. Even though it is easily accessible via Netflix. 2 hours is just too damn long to spend on that movie. Obviously, it sounds like a C for Mucho Mucho Amor when that is available on Netflix, which will be July 8th, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes, I would definitely say see that.
The Truth.
I would say.
Sounds like, Megan, you're an enthusiastic C. I feel like I'm more lukewarm.
I don't know if I'd say an enthusiast. Well, I don't know. I would definitely say see it. I think the acting and the themes that are being explored are definitely worthwhile. Yeah, I don't know if I'd say enthusiastic, but yes, definitely see it.
Fair enough.
Great acting alone, I think, is worth seeing. So yes, see it.
Yeah. Okay. I would say I feel more lukewarm about it. I don't know if I could say see it, but I appreciate it.
There you
go. And what do we think about Homewrecker? See or don't see?
It's short enough so you could it's an hour and 15 minutes long. So go ahead.
You're like, why not? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of conflicted on it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on because this is something I didn't talk about earlier, but there is something kind of, I feel like, ableist, like talking about, some kind of like the stalker film but I feel like at the same time, this film does kind of explore enough sensitively of, not Michelle, Linda. So I don't know. I don't know. I might be a tentative see it, maybe not see it. I'm not sure. I'm really torn on it.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. Yeah, I don't know if I recommend it. I like I said, I found it rather irritating, especially towards the end. So, but to Dave's point, it is only an hour and 15 minutes. So there's worse ways you can spend your time. I mean, you could see Eurovision.
Oh.
Sorry, I just felt like it was an easy mark. So that wraps up another episode of Spoiler Piece Theater. I want to say first, thank you to our editor, Otto Clammer, who edits our show each week.
Yay!
Thank you, Otto.
Thank you, Otto.
Thank you.
You can find us anywhere you can get podcasts. You can also find us at our website, which is spoilerpiece.com. You can find us all over social media. We're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook. We're at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, everyone's favorite website for reviewing movies. You can also get in touch with us a few different ways. First, you can email us, spoilerpiece@gmail.com. Tell us we're wrong. Tell us we're right. Just say hi. I mean, we appreciate the human contact right now. You can also give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
Yes. Call the Spoiler Piece hotline. Leave us a message. And we'd love to hear from you. If you like the show, please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece, and that will take you to your platform of choice. You can rate and review us. We would very much appreciate it. It helps more people find the show. And if you really, really like the show, please join our Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/spoilerpiece. We offer a number of perks. For just $5 a month, you get exclusive audio each week. This week, we talk about Jaws, the summer classic. You can also vote in monthly polls. This past month, we did a poll on LGBTQ films, and we that was a lot of fun, and I'm sure we'll think of something good for July. And and you can also join a tier where you can just straight up pick movies for us to watch. So we very much enjoy that, and we very much appreciate the support of our patrons, and we'd like to thank them as well.
So we want to thank Bob Chipman, Charles Nash, Chris Wilkinson, Daniel Ronsley, Davida Margolin, Deirdre Crimmins, Elisa or Elisa, Christopher Jensen, Max Coville, Mike, Lord of the Sith. And yes, Mike, I do love your name because he commented on Twitter and asked if I was going to say it, and I did. And now I'm saying it, but I love that name. Noah Weiskopf, Rory Glynn, Sean Pensionar, Shauna Harris, Shelly M. McCaskill, Shona Glasgow, and Zach Pigeon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, patrons.
Thank you.
And thank you all for tuning into this week's episode. My name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living. You can follow me on Twitter and on Letterboxd as Real Recon.
I'm Megan Kearns. I'm a contributor to Edge Media. I, too, am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and you can follow me on Twitter at OpinionessWorld and on Instagram and Letterboxd at The Opinioness.
And my name is Dave Riedel. I write sometimes for Salt Lake City Weekly. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as Dave Sees Movies.
We will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.